Rick Horrow inside the boardroom, beyond the scoreboard. Very, very interesting dynamic over the next few weeks. It's a merger of golf and racing and more racing and more racing, but primarily racing and economic development. We're here at the unveiling of the car, the Indy Women in Tech Championship car, driven by Zach Veach. Zach, how are you?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, and we're here to talk about so much more. First of all, take my hat off to you. You are, I don't know what it is Fountain of Youth-wise, but you're 22 going on 12. How did you do it?
That is the problem. I don't know. I guess really good or bad genes, if we want to talk about it that way. One thing I do when I'm out of race cars, I help out with the IndyCar two-seater where we give rides, and Mario Andretti is like the face of that program, and we'll always be out, giving rides, and Mario always introduces me as just turning 13. So that's something I've had to live with for a while, but hey, I'll appreciate it in like 20 years.
Yes, you will. And you're also not going to tell Mr. Andretti that he can't, right? He can do whatever he wants to when he introduces you.
Well, I think, that's part of paying your dues, right? Maybe in another 40 years I'll be able to do the same.
Well, but a meteoric rise through the world of racing, and first of all, it doesn't come cheap, and it doesn't come to the faint of heart. So kind of give us a snapshot of your early days, from your karting days to your F200, 2000 series and beyond. How'd you get here?
Oh, it's something that didn't come as easy as I thought it would be when I was 6 years old with this dream. But it kind of goes back to my start. As my father was a national champion of truck and tractor pulling, and I credit a lot of my success as just the way that I was raised and the parents that I had, because once he knew I was serious about this, for 9 years I begged that I wanted to race, and he won the world finals and thought, well, he's serious about this, I'm going to quit my dream, which was what he thought about since he was a little boy, so I'd have an opportunity to chase mine. So my dad told me one thing that stuck with me my entire career, and it was, I'll work as hard as you do, and I'll take you to the track anytime you want to go. And anytime turned into every day, because I felt I got a late start and I wanted to push, and then I just learned that it's something that you get what you put in it. And I've just had that work ethic that my dad's taught me since opening his own company and starting my career.
Traditional school, traditional high school, traditional undergrad?
Traditional school up to 8th grade, and then I was missing something like 60 days a year, and my public school kind of frowned upon that. So I had to make the decision to go online and lose my friends in my community, but I gave that up so I could have this dream.
Now you make different friends.
Yeah, well,
Epiphany moment. So sometime before 8th grade, you said, I'm going to do this, I'm going to be all in, I'm going to do it well, I'm going to win. You take that dream. Your dad also helped in the business, obviously, but how do you turn that dream into a business reality?
It's got to be something that you think about every day of your life. It's the same with racing, that every morning when I get out of bed, I want to better myself, improve myself in this high competitive world of motorsports. And one side of that is the business side. And being a young kid, 22 years old, it's tough to step into the boardroom with people that have been doing business for 60 years and try to prove that you're effective in a way. And my way to help people is through the form of motorsports. So I've been very lucky up to this point, using a lot of outlets to kind of differ myself from the typical racing driver. I published my own book when I was 16. I helped with anti-texting while driving, anti-bullying, because I wanted to use racing as my stage to meet with people. And with the Indy Women in Tech Championship, it gives me another opportunity to help people, and that's something I'm really appreciative of.
Don't minimize the book that you wrote, this 99 Things Teens Knew Before Turning 16, and this anti-texting app, URTXT. I still text, it hit me in the head, and there are a lot of people who will do it, and it takes somebody with vision at an early age to say don't do it. What motivated you to do that?
Well, unfortunately, my envision of that came because we had a traumatic experience in my hometown. I come from a small farm town of about 200 people, so when something affects one of us, it really affects us all. And I lost a close friend due to texting while driving, and I thought, I'm in this environment where a lot of kids look up to me. I'm driving, these race cars, so I should be, the focus point on good driving. So I thought that would be a perfect way for me to share my experience with kids about how dangerous texting while driving is, because if a driver going 240 miles an hour around the Indianapolis Motor Speedway doesn't text and drive, somebody who just got their license probably shouldn't either.
I think they both shouldn't. That's probably a good idea, ladies and gentlemen. But the interesting thing about that dynamic is that a lot of athletes who are role models, you hear it all over the place, will arrive and then they figure out how to give back, either because they're told to or because they want to. You're doing this at an early age before you've reached the pinnacle of your career. So kudos, and how important is it to continue that focus and make sure the charitable work continues?
It's only getting easier now that I've arrived per se to the highest level of motorsports in America. Because as a young guy, everybody dreams of being to the Verizon IndyCar Series, but it's so difficult to get there. Unfortunately, the sad thing is not all of us make it. So early on in my career, I didn't know how much time that I would have. I knew this is something I wanted to dedicate my life to, but there's a lot of factors that go in that drivers can't control that keep them out of the seat. And that's why I was encouraged to get my early start to do as much as I could while I could, and while I was relevant, I should say. And it's just only gotten bigger and bigger from here.
Well, and the story of how this all happened is an interesting one. Tell it from your perspective. So the Ford organization got a hold of Dan Towers and Guggenheim, and the deal was put together in fairly short order, wasn't it?
I think
lightning speed.
It was one of the shortest deals done in Indy history, probably. For me, that was kind of the thing. It was a goal line for me. I knew I only had a few more days to make something happen, and I was so eager. Everybody around me knew how stressful of a time that was. I had about a week and a half, and I called a local friend of mine who's a pastor here in Indiana, and he passed along Dan's contact to me and thought this might be someone you'd like to speak with. And I actually sent Dan an email. He scheduled a call, and we kind of just hit it off, and things kind of snowballed to this point. But I knew I had a great organization behind me with Veach Racing, and just with Dan's establishment with Guggenheim and with Indy Women in Tech, it was just perfect timing for all of us. So I think I got the nudge from some other place to make this happen.
Well, whether you got the nudge from some other place or not, it is kismet, it's synergistic, it's whatever you want to call it, but you'll find Dan's incredible philanthropy, and obviously yours. You start early at giving back before you've arrived. So great things planned, right? You just got to do well on the track too.
Well, that's the easy part.
Yeah.
I think it's definitely going to be extremely competitive, but I'm a driver. My place at home's in the cockpit of a race car, and it's 4 days and about 21 hours until we're on track here at Indy. So for me, that's when all of this gets calm and quiet for me, and I can get to go to work. But all this hard work has gone into the moment of the greatest race in the world, and I just think it's funny for my family now, because I was 4 years old and I told them that one day I was going to race in the Indianapolis 500, and they kind of laughed because they're like, sure, next week you want to be an astronaut or something else. And that vision just never changed for me, and I just made the commitment that I was going to do whatever it took to get here. And I was just lucky enough to find people like Dan, Indy Women in Tech, Guggenheim, and Veach for having me aboard.
It's a great story, and by the way, parents don't ever admit that they told you that they'd make fun of you. It was like, I've been there all the time.
Well,
so.
See, that's why I bring this out. But no, my family was extremely supportive, and they still are today. I mean, I think a lot of it goes down to the opportunities I was given as a kid, and my father's still my biggest role model and biggest supporter through all of this.
What do you say to the idiots that say race car drivers aren't athletes?
For me, the easiest way to express that to them is to give them a ride in a two-seater. Because a lap around Indy, and they realize how difficult it is. And for me, it's no lie that I'm kind of a smaller guy. I say that I'm 6'4".
We propped them up on a couple of telephones.
Yeah, well, you guys don't need to see the below shot.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's something that I'm training every day for, because our cars are the most physical, demanding in the world. We don't have power steering. Anti-lock brakes. This is still the pure form of motorsports, where it comes down to what the driver can do with a race car. And quite honestly, I hope we never stray from that, because it makes it really difficult on me as a young guy coming into these heavy to drive cars. But that's just, I'm a workhorse when it comes to motorsports, and that's just another part of the piece that I got to get together. And luckily, St. Vincent's has prepared me to do that, and I feel ready to take on this task.
So the St. Vincent's piece of this, so you're mentally strong. Obviously, you wouldn't be here, but the physical part, you work out every day.
Work out, about 5 days a week. The Saturday and Sunday is kind of my own thing to do with cardio, but through us, you got to think that our heart rates in the car usually are 160 to 180 beats per minute. And a race on average is 2 hours to 3 hours long. So, that's equivalent as a marathon runner basically doing his thing. So for us, not only do we have to handle the high heart rate, we have to handle the heat of being in a thick fire suit.
Right. And you can't move for how long?
Well, when you're making a seat, you're in the car for an hour and a half, or you got to sit there. But basically on the racetrack, yeah, you're in it for 2 to 3 hours, completely strapped down. The only thing that's moving is your legs, arms, and neck.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to hear that, okay? I really want you to hear that. And then the idea of going 200 miles an hour, and you're how close to another car that's going the same speed, but it's all relative, so it doesn't look like it.
Well, that's the thing. You know, people always ask me, what's it like going 230 miles an hour? And, you know, it becomes relevant because the more you do it, your mind slows it down. And like you said, the other cars are going relatively 5 miles an hour within what you're doing. So it doesn't seem like you're going 200 miles an hour until something goes wrong. And a lot of the times it happens before you can even realize that, you know, something has gone wrong.
Yeah, you're a happy guy, you're a cheerful guy. Do you have any fears going into a race?
You know, my biggest fear is not what can happen to me in a race car. My biggest fear is not becoming what I've always wanted to be. And that's an Indianapolis 500 champion, a Verizon IndyCar Series champion. You know, I want to live my life to the fullest, and I want to accomplish the goals I've set out from an early age. And this is a great step to get to that. We saw a rookie win the Indy 500 last year, so that doesn't mean a rookie can't do it this year.
And by the way, I could add a few more questions, and then there's the normal gratuitous media training that people give. You don't need that.
Well, thank you. I
That was
appreciate
wonderful.
that.
Thank you.
It means a
Good
lot.
luck.